If you're watching this video, you're probably wondering, what is psychology? What are we going to be talking about today? Well, be prepared to talk a lot about the mind and the foundation of psych. So, psychology, we have psych, which stands for soul, ology, which is the scientific study of, meaning psychology, the scientific study of the mind and behavior. We're going to be talking a lot about some of the founders of psychology. All of them are going to be men. We'll get to some of our psychology ladies at a later date, but let's dive in. So we'll start off with our guy William Wundt, who had created structuralism and introspection. So this is basically understanding the conscious experience, thinking about your own consciousness and breaking it down into parts. It faded away over time just because it's hard to research and it's based off a lot of inner feelings. He is the father of experimental psychology. Next up is William James, who invented functionalism. So, this comes from our cognitive processes, and basically, functionalism is the emphasis on mental activities contributing to basic environment survival. He was the first American psychologist, so great job, William James. And it wouldn't be a psychology lesson without Sigmund Freud. This guy is something. He is often a joke in psychology because he has a lot of sexual ideas, but, anyways, he talks a lot about the unconscious mind, and he was the first one to really establish this. He brought us psychoanalysis, which is a foundation in psychology, and thank you for that, sir. Then we got Mr. John Watson, who brought us behaviorism, the study of actions over internal thoughts or feelings. So, observing humans and animals in their natural environment to see how they behave. We have Carl Rogers, who brought us person centered psychotherapy, also known as client centered. It emphasizes the client's ability to control their treatment and focus on self discovery and personal growth. Him and Abraham Maslow were the founders of humanism. With Gestalt, we have three of our German psychologists, Kohler, Kofa, and Wertheimer. This is basically looking at the person as a whole, mind and behavior. Gestalt is whole. That is the meaning, and that is what you got. Operant conditioning with Mr. B.F. Skinner. He is talking a lot about consequences, reinforcing desired behaviors and discouraging undesired behaviors. With Ivan Pavlov, we have classical conditioning. This is talking about introducing stimulus to create a new reaction. I have a dog who stimulates with food. I have a dog who doesn't salivate with a bell. So forth, at the end, he salivates with the sound of the bell. With Abraham Maslow, we have a hierarchy of needs, talking about self realization, esteem, belonging, safety, and physiological, looking at the five levels that basically are needed for personal growth and self actualization. Mr. Chomsky brought the cognitive revolution, so he brought theories that contributed to the revolution in psychology, shifting the focus from behaviorism to understanding mental processes. John Piaget brought a form of developmental psychology. He was one of many, but he talked about development through childhood to adulthood. In his specific stages, he only had four. Now that we've talked about some of our psychology men, we're going to talk about some of the branches of psychology. There are plenty to list, plenty to talk about, so let's begin. Biopsychology slash evolutionary talks about the structure and function of the nervous system and its involvement in our behavior. Some areas of research are sleep, drug use, neurodevelopment, and so forth. Sensation and perception, we're talking about our senses and our perception, so what we're seeing, what we're paying attention to. It's quite an interesting thing. It looks at our sensory system and our physiological experience of information. Example of perception is in this picture, you might see a duck, you might see a rabbit, just depending on how you look at it. With this other picture, you might see a face or you might see a musician. Cognitive psychology is looking at cognition and thoughts in relation to experiences and actions, so attention, problem solving, language, and memory. As we jump back to Piaget, we have developmental psychology, looking at physical and mental attributes of aging and maturation. So, this can look at moral reasoning, our cognitive skills, our social skills. Mr. Piaget is very famous for this moving to infancy to adulthood theory. Personality psychology looks at behaviors and thought patterns that are unique to each person. So, this can include looking at our consciousness and our unconsciousness to identify personality traits. I'm sure you've seen personality assessments, they're everywhere. Forensic psychology is looking at our justice system, so including assessments of mental competency to stand trial, sentencing, treatment suggestions. You probably see this a lot in those criminal shows that you might be binging. Social psychology, quite a fun one, looking at how people interact and relate with each other, such as prejudice, attraction, interpersonal conflicts, everybody should know that one, and obedience. Health psychology is looking at our biological, psychological, and social cultural influences on an individual's health. So, this suggests that health and illness can be determined by the interaction of all three of these. With clinical psychology, we're looking at diagnosing and treating psychological disorders and problematic behavior. This can include clinical therapy and counseling, often is very assessment based. Industrial organizational psychology is all about studying work, looking at theories, principles, and research to work and improve industrial and organizational settings. So, personnel management, organization structure, workplace environment. Sports and exercise psychology focuses on aspects of sports and physical performance, looking at motivation, performance related anxiety, and overall mental well being involving athleticism. And finally, to end off careers in psychology, most careers require a PhD or master's. You can do stuff like teach, research, counseling, social work, etc. So, at the end of the video, hopefully you learned just a little bit of the tip of psychology. We had Skinner, we had Freud, we had perception, biopsychology, hierarchy of needs, Maslow, clinical psychology, sports and exercise psychology. So many things we touched in very few minutes. Look for more videos soon. I'll be here.